Welcome back to Bunny Banter, the first and only podcast for everything Killer Bunnies. I'm your host Matt, here with co-host Mikey.
Hello.
And as a guest today, as expected, we have Chris.
Yay!
What are we doing today, Mikey?
Today we are going through our favorite cards in the yellow deck.
Yep, so continuing our booster review series, we call it. I guess that's taking place every other episode. So today we're on the yellow booster, looking at one ban card for each of us that we consider perhaps a card that we hate to draw because we hate playing it ourselves, or perhaps a card we hate seeing played on us. That's the ban card, and then we have our top 3 favorite cards from the booster. So let's get right into it here. And for those watching on the YouTube, I will have the cards on the screen, but these should be fairly familiar cards since we're still in the starter set. Starting out, I think I messed it up already. Oh no. Hold
Well
on.
played.
Well played. Oh no, wait, we're good, okay. Sometimes lucky. My ban card is Wheels Freshness Center, which I think...
Ouch.
Ouch. Feels bad for Chris. Wheels Freshness Center is a very notorious high-value card in the yellow booster, of course. Forces your opponent to lose a very large amount of carrots if they have a small amount of money, so it punishes certain dollar management strategies. In fact, it punishes them so well that I think Wheels Freshness Center is the only card, historically, that has a card that specifically only counters it. And that's Wheelaware, the very special from a future booster. I'm pretty sure, I could be misremembering something, but Wheels Freshness Center has a card that specifically only counters it and has no other function. So that's a good demonstration of how impactful this card can be if your opponents don't play around it. In fact, it forces players to play around it because they're always scared of it. So if you ever see your opponent holding a yellow card in their hand, make sure to keep a relevant amount of dollars saved up. Don't decide to spend all your money thinking the game is about to end, only to get punished by losing 15 carrots and delaying the game. And most people within the community do not like a delay of game with how long game like this already, which there are solutions to, of course, but this does disrupt those solutions even. So that's why Wheels Freshness Center is my ban card on this list. Not to mention some history with Mikey playing on me right before the last turn, and that totally hasn't happened and hasn't been mentioned on Bunny Banter before, so. Okay. Moving on to Chris's ban card. What you got, Chris?
I chose Top Run Rotate. Everything everybody's been there at least once playing bunnies in beginner sets, because you often, as a victim of Top Run Rotate, here you are about to change the fortune of your game, probably going to make a really great move on somebody, and you get this nasty little grin on your face because you don't have a good poker face. And then the guy next to you has already saved it and decides, Chris is looking very suspicious. Let's Top Run Rotate and take his card. And then it ruins your day.
Well played.
It's one of those cards that if you have it saved and you're kind of watching people's emotions as they draw and play cards, you're like, let's just see what they're hiding and see if it's actually relevant, and it usually is. It's hurt me too many times.
I might be guilty of that.
Although I completely understand your Wheels Freshness. That is a very, very toxic card, and I totally understand why you would pick that.
Oh yeah, Top Run Rotate is quite toxic too when it succeeds.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm still scarred.
Aren't we all from these ban cards? Except for perhaps Mikey's ban card. What do you pick, Mikey?
Why I chose Russian Roulette. I chose Russian Roulette because I never play Russian Roulette. Because I think we talked about this the last time. I don't really like to take risks that involve my bunnies. And this, I have the chance to destroy somebody else's bunny, but I also have the chance to lose my own, even though I get to roll twice. And I'm not willing to take that risk. So I never play this card, and I don't like it when this card is played. Therefore, they're my ban list.
There we go, an example of how with these banned cards, it's not always a card that's excessively toxic. Sometimes it's a card that we consider useless for our own strategies. So thank you, Mikey, there for giving an example of that. Okay, let's move into a more positive note, our top 3. So I'm going to get right into my number 3 here. Perhaps an unusual pick. Free cabbage and water. So the question is, why on earth would I pick a simple card such as this? The reason is it fits into 2 categories of strategies that I love playing, and the best thing is they look very similar. It fits perfectly into a passive neutral type philosophy where you want to play relatively low to medium value cards. So playing the free cabbage and water on, say, turn 1 is a very strong play and very much underrated. But in the passive neutral meta, it's extremely strong because a lot of players are less likely to target an opponent's bunny if they have the foods necessary to feed it. Some players will follow the opposite philosophy, but for the most part, in most groups that I've played in, the philosophy tends to go, this player can feed their bunny anyways, I'm going to attack this other player instead. That tends to be how it goes. That philosophies differ there, but this card provides a great defensive. It's a great defensive play. It's never going to be viewed as aggressive. If I get in my opening hand, I'm really excited for that passive neutral philosophy because it also lets me delay my first bunny by a turn if it's not proper to do a turn 1 or turn 2 bunny. Having that special in your hand lets you delay a turn while not wasting your turn. You know, you could have passed a turn, but that doesn't feel as good because then you look suspicious and other reasons you lose a tempo. This, you get to keep your tempo, you don't look suspicious, just several benefits to playing this card under the passive neutral philosophy. But even stronger is my favorite neutral aggressive strategy of hidden investments. Typically looks like that passive neutral strategy throughout the first beginning and middle of the game. I look like the passive neutral player. In reality, I'm just saving all the big cards in my hand. So this card as an opener also perfectly fits that strategy. So that's why I picked Free Cabbage Water. Very simple card, but what it allows you to do under those 2 strategies and some others as well, it's very strong and very much underrated. Moving on to Chris's number 3. What do you pick, Chris?
Well, as you'll find out later, all 3 of my cards are what I would call staple cards to know if you're playing Killer Bunnies. They all have big swing potential in any turn. My number 3 is Double No Trouble. This enhances the speed of the game, or at least the end game, for those that know how to use it correctly. It's really nice when you just want to finish the game, or you catch your opponents without bunnies by buying like 4 to 6 carrots towards the end. It just feels really good when you pull it off. Very satisfying card.
Quite similar to the half-price coupon from the Blue Booster.
Yes.
There
Or
may
you could
be
combine them.
Oh yeah, they work great together. There may be some who wonder why I didn't put Double No Trouble as my banned card. I was close to doing it because I put half price coupon on my ban for Blue Booster. The very important difference is that Double No Trouble has a bit of counterplay to it, where you can't save it for later, so you actually have to play it at the right time, and the timing is difficult. It can be countered by things like top run rotate if it's too obvious. So there is more counterplay with something like Double No Trouble than there is with a saved half price coupon or a half price coupon kept hidden in the hand. But yeah, it's a very, very impactful card for any aggressive or neutral aggressive strategy. Even hidden investments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I've never done that before. Nope.
Totally not.
Nope.
Okay.
It's all luck.
Moving on to Mikey's number 3. What do you got, Mikey?
My number 3 is Containment Suit. I chose this one. It's not useful in a lot of situations, but when you do have it and you do use it, it is useful. And it's always nice to when somebody plays, Ebola or something, and you're like, "Ooh, I've got this. I can protect myself." And I think for starting out in in one of the first couple decks, this is a pretty high quality card. Like I said, it's not useful in a lot of situations, but it is extremely useful in limited situations. So I think it's pretty neat that it came out so early. It fought against the Bug version. But anyway, I just chose that. It's not super exciting and not useful all the time, but when it is useful, it's very useful.
Yeah, containment suit's actually really interesting because I'm trying to think of another example of a very special bunny modifier. There's very few of them. Ancient Star Rod is one technically on the holographic bunny. But other than that, usually with these types of effects of countering specific cards, we just got a new example in London that counters the specific weapons from London. I can't remember the name of that card. Oh yeah, of course, it's Canary Wharf. That's the one that does it.
Okay.
With this one, it's a bunny modifier, so it actually has some semblance of permanence to it, where you could preemptively play it in theory, where lots of very special cards, the debate is, do I want to discard it to draw a card right away and try to get a better one, or do I want to save in my hand for eternity until it's actually relevant? This one, you can take the in-between approach of saying, oh, I'll just play on my bunny now. It probably won't be relevant, but in case one of those weapons was about to be played, it will be good then. I didn't have to hold it in my hand. So it's an interesting case. It's very unique for the starter set. Okay, those were our number 3 picks. Moving on to the number 2. My number 2, I picked a card for thematic reasons, which the thematic reasons are more personal. The Scissors, weapon level 2, very simple. Scissors is kind of like a running joke in my friend group, where it's always like hashtag level 2 is what we say.
You'll have to drop the meme, Matthew, on
because
the
there's a picture of me holding scissors, and the meme caption is, "I should not be allowed such power," because that was another quote of mine. But so it's a very deep running joke. You could also tie it to in first grade I threatened my classmates with scissors. Too soon.
Can you drop that picture, Matthew, in the comments when we share this video?
If I remember to, I'll consider it. But yeah, so it's my number 2 pick. Number 2, ha ha ha, because of the meme. As far as strategy goes, fits perfectly into a few passive neutral strategies involving usually whisk cycling is the passive strategy that likes low level weapons. Preferably you'd have a level 1 for that strategy. Level 2 works just as good. Of course, if in terms of more neutral aggressive, can combine nicely with things like duct tape, playing a bunch of low level weapons from your hand at the same time. Very good value there. Combines, of course, with the Monolith pretty nicely. So that it has its uses, but mostly it's my number 2 pick just for the memes.
Oof.
Moving on to Chris's number 2. What you got, Chris?
Wheels Freshness Center.
Wheels Freshness Center.
Yeah, it had to go on my list. It's too iconic from the beginner set not to put on somebody's list. If you haven't suffered from this card, it's gonna happen. It's one of those cards that you can basically prevent all your opponents from just spending their money right away, or like stockpiling. Even if they stockpile money, it's good to get rid of all that dollar from them in beginner set. It's one of those punish cards that you have to watch out for, and in a game where if you don't punish people, they get overpowered. It's nice to have something you can use to counteract that.
Yeah, an interesting dilemma in full set is in the starter set it's easy to play around this card, just save your money. In full set we have cards like Bankruptcy and Bunny and Clyde that actually punish the saving of money too. So you have this dilemma of, do I play around Wheels or do I play around Bankruptcy? And it's difficult
Exactly.
to get a balance there. So there's a lot of risk versus reward. It can sometimes be difficult to play around this card, but huge value when you pull it off.
I'm still waiting for Ultimate Wheels Power to come out, and we'll have like you have to pay $10 to save each carrot.
Oh,
It's not gonna happen, but it would be a fun card.
I'm very glad that the cards that have the same strength of Wheels are the same category as Wheels type of mechanic of losing large amounts of carrots. For example, Mother Tucker, Swordfish of Damocles from Creature Feature. Those have a much bigger conditional attached to them where it's not going to happen. It could happen, but you're not going to lose all your carrots. This one, the conditional is to have Dala to be protected, which is an easy enough conditional. Sometimes players don't play around it and you get to punish them pretty hard, so that's exciting. Okay, moving on to Mikey's second pick. What you got, Mikey?
I chose the Minolith. Minolith. I feel like there should be a. Well, there is an I in there. You just can't read it very well with the font. The Minolith. This is a pretty powerful card when you have it. The one thing I perhaps ranked it a 2 because if you have this card and you lose your bunnies, you lose the card. Now that is a nice thing when somebody else has this card and they lose all their bunnies and then they lose the card and then they can't target you with level 18 weapons in a game. If you're playing starter set, you're dead no matter what. So it's nice that there's a way to get out of that. But also it's kind of sad day for you if you lose all your bunnies. You also lose this because it has the pink circle. But yeah, I think it's a good quality card. It allows you to. It not only affects the bunnies that you target, but also adjacent bunnies. So yeah, it's kind of. It maybe can sometimes be too toxic, but it's a good card. Yeah, that's my number 2.
Yeah, Middle, very exciting pick. What are you gonna say, Chris?
I was gonna say I treat the Minolith the same way Mikey treats Russian roulette.
Oh, feels bad.
Because I draw the Minolith and I'm like, well, this is dumb. I have to play another card to utilize this card, and it's going to disappear because I only have one bunny anyway, so what's the point of me running it through unless I have a handful of weapons? So I never feel like I ever get to achieve anything with it. It's like, well, what's this actually good for? It just doesn't fit my playstyle at all. Zero synergy with me.
The Minolith does have some synergies that require some setup work, of course. It's a very strong card if you do that setup work. You have to know what you're doing with the setup work. For example, perhaps you buy back low-level weapons, or perhaps you save up low-level weapons is the more common scenario. And then you have these you get this high value out of these low value cards. So the Minolith essentially buffs all your low value weapons into high value weapons, and pretty high value weapons, all things considered. There's one extreme case, which is Cruise Missile Prime from the red booster, that has a weird interaction with the Minolith because it's the only ranged level 9 or less weapon in existence. So it gets a bit complicated on how the math actually turns out. If you calculate it based on mechanical consistency, I don't believe it's ever been clarified, but Cruise Missile Prime normally affects adjacent bunnies. If you double it, I believe it will affect bunnies 3 spaces away and instantly kill them. It turns the Cruise Missile Prime into the Stray Asteroid, except the timing of when it explodes and where it explodes is somewhat random with how it roams around the board and explodes at certain points once the red die rolls a prime. So that's an interesting situation to put yourself in, because you all of a sudden have this threat of a stray asteroid that could explode at any time. So that's the edge case, but yes, it is a difficult card to get set up, and it is easily dealt with, which is nice for a high value card. That is the purpose of the pink circle cards, is to not have these continuous effects get out of hand. So very good game design on Jeff's part there. Okay, the moment everyone's been waiting for, the number 1 picks. Very exciting. My number 1 pick. Controversial pick for Chris. Top Run Rotate. You can tell from in some ways, perhaps if other people were doing this list within the community, there are some that would argue for a literal ban list in Killer Bunnies, that some cards should not see play. If anything, these episodes demonstrate that a ban card for one person is a card that the other person thinks fits their strategy perfectly, and therefore you can't feasibly write a ban list that everyone will agree upon, because cards that are deemed toxic by one are deemed well-designed cards by another person. So that's a bit of a tangent there, and perhaps a whole nother discussion. But I picked Top Run Rotate because it rewards good planning, where let's assume, obviously the situation that Chris described, where if the opponent doesn't have a good poker face, you can pretty easily deduce what they have set down as their top run, and you can quickly realize, hey, that's the extra super pink bunny. I need to top run rotate. Maybe I've saved it in my hand for this exact moment, so they aren't expecting it. Top run rotate. I get this extra super pink bunny. Feels good. I ruined all their plans. I put myself in an amazing situation, and I got rid of a useless card. Maybe I got rid of delinquent miners. Top Run Rotate is such a disruptive card if used correctly, where all the cards that have literally no value, such as delinquent miners in a group of people where no one's under the age of 18, or carousel in a group where no one's over the age of 30, all those very conditional cards, this provides an opportunity to give them to your opponent, where it's like, hey, I have this completely useless card I was going to discard anyways, let's Top Run Rotate it. Maybe I timed it right to plan around what I read for my opponent. Maybe I didn't time it. Maybe I didn't plan the timing. I just decided to get rid of my useless card because on average I'll get something that's medium value. Very commonly in a group where the meta is currently around a turn 1 bunny, I'll set down a useless card as my turn 1, and then Top Run Rotate as my actual turn 1 from the hand. So then, very quickly, I disrupt everyone's plans. Very impactful card, if used correctly. Very unimpactful in the eyes of the unexperienced player, where it's like, oh, this card doesn't actually do anything, it just swaps cards. It's not that exciting. I'm not actually directly affecting the board. In reality, if you have the skills to use it, you get so much value from this. Moving on to Chris's number 1 pick. What you got, Chris?
A Reversal of Fortune. I chose this card. It's a swing card, obviously. There's a couple ways you can look at it. You can look at it as one, it essentially lets you have 2 turns in a row, which is a huge benefit if you know your opponent has something coming that might disrupt that, or you just really need to get that extra 2 carrots off your choose a carrot. Or, if you think about it this way, it also kind of acts as if you have a triplet for 1 turn, if you do it right. If you have a bunny, and you need to get the next card off to eliminate something before your opponent obliterates you, you can Reversal of Fortune from your hand, and get that extra card off while you have a bunny on the board. So it feels pretty good. There's so many good uses for it. And it's not one of those cards where people are like, oh, it's absolutely toxic. It's a really nice, feels good card for anybody that draws it because everybody can use it correctly.
Okay, very high tempo pick for Chris. Just a very all-around good card. Reverse of Fortunatus, especially since
Oh, and the
it's.
artwork on it is fantastic.
Oh yeah,
That's an actual one where I can appreciate the artwork.
that facial expression on that bunny though, you can tell everything has gone completely wrong for the opponent. Okay, moving on to the last card today, Mikey's number one pick. What is it, Mikey?
Area 51. I chose this. This is, I think, is a very interesting card and what it does. Where you're set, it essentially takes your bunny out of the game. Except it's not out of the game. It's especially nice if you have multiple bunnies. Or if you are looking ahead in the future and you see something like Ebola virus is coming, especially if Ebola virus is coming, you can play this if you happen to have enough time to run it through. You're gonna lose your bunny anyway, more than likely. So if you play this, you'll lose your bunny, but it will still count towards the end. I think that's my favorite part.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Mikey, but it should be clarified for the.
Did we lose Chris?
We might have lost Chris.
You still there, Chris?
Yeah.
Is. Okay.
Hi.
Your sentence got cut off. What were you saying?
I was saying it should be noted, right? Or wow, maybe you are losing me.
We lost you years ago.
Okay, so what I'm trying to say is when you start playing Killer Bunnies, oftentimes people think it's a good idea to use Area 51 as an aggressive card and play it on your opponent's bunny to remove their bunny from the game, which is sometimes good. But what Mikey's referring to here is this is an excellent play to keep one of your bunnies safe for a lot of duration of the game so that you can have a bunny at the end so you can maybe win with the final carrot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I like about the card. It's very nice.
Area 51 is a very iconic card because it is the first instance right away at the starter set where we have a somewhat consistent way to protect a bunny. You know, the Heavenly Halo protects a bunny from dying completely, but it can still be stolen. Someone in the Discord didn't realize that before, so I feel bad for their group. Now that they know that rule, it's sure going to help them. But this card, once it's abducted, the only way you can actually interact with it is if another bunny is abducted. More ways come later in the full set. For example, Hemp is released in Red Booster. I believe Bunnies in Black is released in Violet, if I remember correctly. Both of those directly counter the defensive use of Area 51, so it is good to see that it is interactable. But for the most part, all normal means of interaction with bunnies that you would typically use, like weapons, feed the bunny, stealing it, this Area 51 protects against all of those. So it's a very, very strong defensive play that is quite iconic in use in starter sets and still relevant within full sets. Even more so relevant in full set since it's less likely for someone to get the second Area 51 to actually abduct their own bunny and your bunny comes back and is now vulnerable again.
I would say in full set you probably see 2 Area 51s a game.
Sometimes. There's a few in the deck. I'm trying to remember the exact number, and there's also the Mothership. Usually, the past several full set games I've played, I can't say I remember Area 51 being played, but that's somewhat just luck of the draw there to see what's actually played. There's other mechanics similar in full set as well that aren't specifically Area 51 related, but yes, it is an iconic mechanic. The first instance of abduction mechanics too, which is somewhat unexplored territory actually. as far as mechanics go. You know, the Halo Bunny protects against abduction. Area 51 is one of the few. Leaf Carrotin is technically an abduction mechanic. Pillars of Gulu is technically an abduction mechanic, I believe. So there are very few of those. So it's a cool, unique mechanic that I'd like to see more of. So maybe when we get to the Antsy Aliens expansion 3-4 years from now, maybe we'll see more.
It'll just be drop 10 Area 51s into the deck.
Oh, spooky. Okay.
Which we'll have to wait 4 years to see if I actually prophesy that or not.
Casual of 10 more Area 51s printed. Here we go. Another prophecy from Chris. He predicted. Speaking of prophecies from Chris, there has been some news about future, I don't want to say boosters, but editions of Killer Bunnies coming out in June and July. We are not discussing those today, nor the next episode, nor the episode after that, because that's another review. But a few episodes from, maybe in 2 months or 3 months, we will be discussing our thoughts on the Killer Bunnies intro set and the new Killer Bunnies light set, basically another form of remix, like Chris prophesied. So we will be discussing those in a future episode. So if anyone would like to be the guest for that episode to talk about their thoughts on the existence of those sets and what the implications this has for full sets and normal quest line, contact me and we'll see if we can get you in. In terms of next episode we'll be having Joe Slack on to talk about house rules. So that should be a fun discussion. So look forward to that one. Did I miss any? Oh yes, and Cake Batter. The ETA is in the fall of 2020. So that's quite a ways off, but as soon as we get some more public information about Cake Batter, we will start the discussions for that as well. So it's a very exciting few months coming up here for the Killer Bunnies community.
A follow-up question. Do we know if Maple Sparkle is remaining Maple Sparkle?
I sure hope so, because Maple sparkles. And that is the official standing of Bunny Banter. We will not have any, even though that reminds me, we can't have Joe Slack as a guest again because he disagrees on that, so never mind, we'll have to find a new guest for next episode. Sorry, Joe.
As far as Killer Bunnies, as far as expansion names go, I feel like Cake Batter is less exciting than Maple Sparkle.
Oh.
Hot take.
I actually kind of agree. I like Maple Sparkle better than Cake
It's
Batter.
Sparkle.
I don't dislike Cake Batter. I like Cake Batter a lot. But Maple Sparkle is just a really impactful name. I'm really excited to see what they do with that.
It's better than Khaki.
Oh, wacky khaki.
Wacky Khaki.
Wacky khaki. Okay. Did I miss any announcements?
I don't think so.
Okay. So with that, thank you everyone for watching. And Mike, anything you'd like to say?
Jeff bless.
Jeff bless.